Hello guys, uh, bring you guys another video, and I feel like this video is quite important, quite significant, because this is something that I see okay, I'm gonna make two videos in quick succession. One is based on CS, one is not, but both videos are addressing misconceptions, just trying to clear things up. Um, Again, like all my videos, I'm not an authority, I don't know. I don't know what you have to be do to be authority on this sort of stuff, but um, the thing is, this kind of needs to be explained because right now people do not get what's going on. Okay, so first of all, I do apologize. I'm a bit out of breath. Just had to go do something quickly. So you'll come to my settings and you'll notice that I'm currently on 1280 stretched, right? But I'm on a 1440p screen, so as you can see, max res is 1440p. Um, and my settings are these now. Thing is, I've done FPS benchmark tests. I've got a 390. Thing is, when your GPU is at a certain level, this really, or when the 3D rendering capabilities of your card are at a certain level, it does not take a lot of die area and transistors to get this kind of load rendered. Okay, so GPUs have a function where certain subsectors of the die are responsible for certain elements of graphical rendering. So certain areas of the die are responsible for the textures, some are responsible for the physics, some are responsible for whatever the anti-aliasing type things like the software, like the pixel manipulation, like different things on the die, and essentially each C, or I guess not NVIDIA, will be SM. So each SM in my card, um, the SMs get kind of like they get allocated and leveraged by the API and the source engine to render CS. Now, the thing is, if I open up my NVIDIA Performance tab, you'll notice that it does not take a lot of rendering horsepower to actually get this scene rendered. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this well because obviously it's going to be a bit blurry. Thankfully, the actual recording is agnostic of the game res, whereas on my side it looks a lot blurrier because I'm on a 1440p screen. So this kind of this kind of like text box on the top right corner for me looks quite fuzzy. Hope for you guys it's better, but um, what I can see is that the GPU utilization to get the scene rendered right now is about 50%. Now, at this kind of utilization, using low latency is a bit of a question mark. Now, this is a DX9 game at the moment, so I'm not sure that'll change with Source 2 because they might just bring in Vulkan, which would be nice. But this is currently a DX9 game, meaning, what does that mean? It means if you go to control panel, you actually are affected by um, some of these. Wait, let me find CS. Some of these DX9 kind of control panel features. So, for example, texture filtering, you will have an effect in DX9 applications like CSGO. So this actually does matter in CS. Now, you can use high quality if you want. You can use performance. I use performance just because I do it. It doesn't make a difference with visual quality. If it did, I wouldn't care. But I use high performance just for peace of mind. And you'll notice I use well, not this is not what I want to show you. I want to show you I use low latency. I use Ultra. So Ultra for me feels better, but it has been a debated thing by tech insiders and I guess like enthusiasts and stuff because, like, arguably speaking, if you're on this kind of situation where, or in this situation where your card is being leveraged like 50%, you might not want to use Ultra because now the frame queue is kind of questionable because arguably the card could probably render like so many frames in advance if you didn't use Ultra that it would lower your latency. Now, I don't really know, and I'm not a engineer, so I can't really like say which would be objectively better in the situation, but I can say that I felt Ultra does feel a little bit better. I'm not sure if NVIDIA's engineers they could explain to you like what they think is happening. Now, as you can see, the render latency right now is zero point 0.4 milliseconds, which is fucking nothing. And upgrading my PC further would probably result in a net zero anything. Not that having a good PC is needed to be good at CS. I feel like it's a big misconception that PC actually matters that much, FPS, whatever. A lot of being good at video games is just a talent type thing, right? So But I want to show you that the GPU power right now is like 230-ish watts. Oh, wait, this is frozen. That's not real time. There we go. Okay. Is it? Wait. There we go. It's working? It's not working. Interesting. Something happened. Let me close this up. So something happened where it affected the rendering thing. Ah. Yeah, I can see that. Because if I'm tabbed out, okay, let me close CS real quick, and I'll go back into CS, right? But anyway, but you could see when it was still rendering real time for a second, then you could see that it was about 50% usage, more or less. That's kind of what 1280 by 960 does. So if I go back to aimbots, now it doesn't matter where you do this, whether it's a map or whether it's aimbots, whatever, it doesn't really matter, because the scene being the same is what's important, so we can compare one to one, right? So I'm gonna do 3 resolutions, and again, this is the first. So I'll go back to the way I like it configured. Okay, so here we are, real time, and you can see still about 40%, 50%, up and down. GPU clock is about 2010 megahertz. It might go up to like 2025. Power is about 200 watts, maybe spikes to 250. The voltage might go to 1.1 sometimes, depends. It doesn't really matter. But I'm gonna show you now what happens if I go to 1920 by 1440, right? Please don't crash. Please don't crash. Please don't crash. Thank God. Thank the Lord. Okay. Anyway. Okay. So now we're at 330 watts. Holy crap. Holy crap. And we're up to 70% usage. So we have now experienced a huge increase in pixel count, and thus our SMs have now been loaded by 20 more percent, which means like 20 more percent of the SMs on the die are now working. I guess so. And FPS is still obviously sky high. Why? Because the card hasn't been fully leveraged, so there's no real reason why the FPS would have dipped, because the card still isn't even being 100% leveraged. The CPU has been chilling at 15% the entire time, right? My 1200K. So what's currently happening is the CPU is like, okay, the RAM is fast as hell. CPU is drawing as many frames as it can. The GPU is the one that's like determining kind of like what's happening, and the GPU is like, well, we're not really loaded either. So what's happening? The game is pretty much at this point, I guess you could say, engine limited, or there's no real way you could make this game run faster, because right now my hardware doesn't even care. It's not even sweating. So if I have all the way to max res, right, you'll notice we get the highest jump in wattage, obviously. It's all basic math, right? Like, I'm sure everyone watching this video already kind of knows what to expect. Yeah, you can see there. So now we're at like 370 watts. That's about the most this game can draw. It's the most that can be leveraged in this game. FPS is still sky high, hitting 800 FPS, and there is, realistically speaking, almost no difference in render latency. Now, there is 1 millisecond hits or spikes, and even 1.4 over there, and like a 0.8 you can see it does hit sometimes, but around between 0.8 and like 1.5-ish you could say is average, whereas 1280 what was it, like 0.4 flat? Okay, so yes, having a lower res does, I guess, decrease render latency, but I mean, guys, 0.4 to 1. You're not gonna feel this. Like, you feel nothing. One millisecond render latency, it's nothing. There's no lag at all. I'm swiping my mouse. Everything is super smooth, buttery smooth, and I'm sure in the video you guys can tell as well. There's nothing you would say about the scene and be like, oh, you're gonna play with. No, objectively speaking, you should play exactly the same. Sans the fact that the people are smaller now. Like the player models are smaller, so maybe it's harder to hit them. But so now I tell you, okay, so why do we use low res? Why? Because from what you're seeing at this point, it's like, well, okay, and even, okay, let's say my crosshair right now, I'm on gap -5. So even the crosshair hasn't changed going from 1280 to this res, because the crosshair is already minimized in terms of its like kind of slenderness. So why would I not use max res? What could possibly be the reason why CS pros don't use max res? I'm telling you right now, it's not because they looked at the render latency on their own NVIDIA cards and no, CS players have been using low res since 2014, fucking 14, and they've been using it for a while. Even when people say it's because of the 4x3 thing from like CRTs, it's partially that, but a lot of players aren't even that old, guys. So that can't be why. The only realistic culprit is people test. So people go and they test and they see what res do they feel most comfortable on. Now, most players find they feel most comfortable on 4x3. Now, why not use something like 1920 by 1440? Or I guess if you had a 1080p screen, you could use 1440 by 1080. Why not? Because NVIDIA only updated their scaling options recently. Means that back in 2016, when CS was on the rise and most players were selecting their loadouts or their configurations, well, back then, if you went to a NVIDIA control panel, you would not find a toggle for 1920 1440. So you would never find this res. This res used to never exist over here. This never used to exist. 1440 is not here right now because I don't have a 1080p screen. If you had a 1080p screen, you'd have 1440 by 1080. This never used to exist. You used to make this custom. I have no custom resolutions right now because you don't need them anymore. NVIDIA have kind of wisened up to what players wanted. So that's why people don't use their max screen res. I'm pretty sure by this point, even the CS LAN, whatever NVIDIA card they use at LAN should have 1440 by 1080 default. Why don't players use it? Because it was just never there when they were making these settings. Now, would they use it? Maybe. Probably. They don't use it right now because Simple uses 1280 by 960 stretch, and Simple using it, GetRight using it, a lot of top players back in like 2015-16 using it, a lot of the players making their configurations again went to those resolutions because they were the most common. Players tested them out, they felt good, and people like to stick with what's comfortable. Okay, so now to the actual answer. Let me shoot it. Right? Okay, so what am I feeling? Do I feel any lag? No, not at all. I feel no lag. Is it the player models being smaller that's making it harder for me to track the toggles? No, not really, no. So why then does my aim look labored? Why does it look so... I'll tell you why. It's because it takes more effort to flick on 1440p. Why is that? Why does that happen? So your brain unconsciously will coordinate with your hand to do fire motor adjustments. Now, you can't see your hand playing. You don't watch your hand while you play. You just go by feel, right? So why is it so hard to properly track on native? Why? Why do players not like native? Why do people go to native and they feel like they're playing like bots and go to 4x3 and say, oh my goodness, I'm so good now? Because when there's more pixels on this, more pixels being rendered, server side, the server knows where the bot is, right? Even in the game, the server knows where the character is, and it's your job on your PC side to hit the target, send the info to the server, and the server will say you got the kill, right? Okay. So what's happening is when your render on your client side is more complex, like there's more, like the amount of pixels this bot's head is like kind of occupying, the geometric, like yeah, the geometric coordinate on the render for the output of the GPU. I'm trying to say it technically, but also not so much because it's gonna get stupid. But like the geometric render, like it's more complex with a higher res. So, and people have mentioned this before in the comments of Random Bridge as well, because I found this like many years ago when I was like, why does it feel better when I'm on like 800 by 600? And someone was like, because of this, and I'm like, oh, makes sense, right? So it's a lot harder to find the target when the res is more complex. Now, you can obviously learn this, like you will adapt over time. It's why a lot of players that play like Warzone and stuff don't use 4x3. I don't know if you can, but yeah, but it's like you don't need to like rely on the low reses. You can get used to like tracking on 16:9, right? You can get used to this, surely. But it's just a lot less kind of it's a lot easier to do this, right? So now I did practice a little bit beforehand, so I know my aim is kind of warm today. It's not bad, but I'll show you. So render latency, look, 0.1, bro. Hey, dude, 0.1, dude. My PC's cracked, bro. Okay, here we go. So I am missing obviously, but My aim isn't perfect, but it's a lot easier to hit the target, right? It's a lot easier. Like, it's significantly easier. And why is that? Well, because 1280 by 960, I am not having to micro adjust subconsciously. Like, my brain is like, okay, flick. It's seeing the mouse cursor come towards the head. My hand is intuitively reacting because it's trained to react when I'm on the head, right? And it's like, huh, we're on. And I'm shooting. But on 1440p, it takes so much more effort because it's like you're coming close and then you're just missing. You're just on 1440p. It's like you're hitting and then you're like, I have to micro adjust subconsciously, and then it's like, why am I on the head? It's like, why am I not hitting? It's because like it's just more pixels to track, to cover, to account for in terms of your aim. Like on 1280 stretch, there's so few pixels that you're just on the target way more kind of like readily. Like the snap is just so much more convenient, right? It's just so much less effort to get your fine motor aim like on the head. And render latency is lower, yes, but I don't feel like that's the main reason. But you try something fun. I can go to actually go 8x6 because I used to love this res back in the day. I don't know what it looked like. I don't know. So I didn't use stretch, by the way. I used the black bars. So yeah, this is now, yeah, so the render latency is still 0.1, GPU utilization is like 40% right now. But yeah, dude, to hit the hit, man, I love this res, dude. Like, bro, this res, dude. Oh, I love this res so much, bro. Like, oh, it's so fun. Okay, this probably looks horrible, right? It should look horrible. My stride looks horrible as well. Black bars look somewhat better, but yeah, dude, I don't know. This race would not be playable. You'd just no, it wouldn't be playable. As smooth as it feels, it's just not practical. Now, some pros still use 1024. I actually love 1024, but I've occupied 1280 because there is a fine line between visibility and like just pure latency and like, you know, low pixel count. But as you can see, 1024 stretch still feels, I mean, it still looks pretty like proper, right? Like you can still see people like all good, you know? Like you can still see like characters proper. To be honest, I used to main this res. I used to love this res. 1024 stretched. And black bars too. I used to love this res so much. But I guess 1280 just kind of like 1280's kind of got me now, and you know, I've just been sticking to it. Just the fix is so much simpler on low res compared to high res. I mean, you can feel it, like you don't feel like you have to put as much effort into getting your mouse on target. Like, it's such a weird thing. And the reason why I say it, like I'm trying to describe it like so like colorfully, is because I want you guys to understand, like when you drop your res and people are like, oh, it's all like in the mind, it's psychological, it's not gonna help, and then you're like, no, but it feels better, right? You're playing better, your shots are hitting. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's just you feel good, right? You feel like you're much more capable of killing on this res, and the reason is just because you're finding the target way more like readily when you're flicking. Like you're flicking around and you're not being punished for micro inaccuracies, right? So that's the advantage of low res, is you're not being punished. When you're on high res, of course, you know, when using Deagle, for example, or even like a USB, for example, people say on high res they hit their pistol shots more easily. Well, why? Because you're one-tapping with pistols, right? With the AK you're spraying, so your burst can hit the head, because even if it's not accurate, as long as your burst is in the vicinity of the head, you're gonna hit a burst bullet that hits the head and kills the character, right? On a pistol round, like a Deagle or USB, whatever, or the P50 on an eco round, whatever, you have to hit the head, right? So, and you're one-tapping. So what's happening is you one-tapping and it's like, oh, what the fuck? I just missed the head, because on 4x3 sometimes that same kind of thing where it's like you can pick and find the target more easily because there's less like pixel information. Sometimes you might look like you're on, but because the res is fuzzy, you're actually missing like the head by a few pixels. So like sometimes you might just come over here, like just there. Do you see that like a little gap between the helmet and the shoulder? It looks like you're on him, like you're at distance. You're like, oh, I'm on him. Okay, I hit him, but like okay, but like you'll hit like right like that. You'll be like that, and you'll just miss the character. Right? On 1440p or like native or whatever, 1080p when you're playing on a 60mm screen, when you're on, because that drawing, that rendering of the model is so accurate, so pixel accurate, and there's so much pixel information that when you're on, you're really on. That's the thing about native. That's why native is so preferred by a lot of players, like Rops, I guess you could say, and like Shroud, Yakindo. Yakindo and Rops, John, but look at their aim. Very, very mechanical players, very, very like sharp, very precise aim. Why is that? Because they've learned to play on native, and that ability to hit so precisely means when they hit, they really hit. Like when you're on 4x3 and you're doing shit like that, just fucking missing the head when you're flicking and you're like, oh, I'm on the go. Someone native is like, when they're on, and they're hitting you 100%, and they're getting the headshot, and it's like trade-offs, man, trade-offs. But Ziwu, Simple, Device, all playing 1280 stretched. Nico, Hunter, or Hunter's playing 1280 stretched. Nico's playing 1152 stretched. Monacy's playing 1280 stretched. Players like Forest, Yakindo, Rops are playing native. Rain is playing 1280 stretched. So, trade-offs, man. Like 1280 stretched is a nice kind of middle ground where you still get the render latency, you still get, you know, for whatever it's worth, you still get the decent pixel quality, so your skins look nice and the game looks okay, like it looks playable. It's not super blurry or super fucking ugly, whatever. You still get a little bit of that, you know, fuzziness where you're missing heads sometimes, you know, where you're not precise. But the thing is, it's not so bad as like 1024 where you're really compromised by the fuzziness. On 1280, it's a lot less of a problem, and you know, you can still hit the target pretty accurately most of the time, and you get that benefit again, like render latency. You get the benefit of the big character models, and you know, I guess you get peace of mind where it's like, okay, all the best players in the world, a lot of them, a fairly high portion of best players in the world are using this res. Therefore, I cannot possibly blame this res. The res cannot possibly be the reason I'm playing badly. And sometimes for players playing a game like CS that is highly stressful, highly emotional, having that added buffer of like, I don't have to worry about this thing. It's like, maybe it's for the best that you just have to worry about your res, because if you're playing native and it's like every single time you miss a shot, you'd be like, oh, what if I was on Simple's res? I'd kill the guy. It's like having that level of like psychological distress and having that level of like kinda insecurity, it's like probably not worth risking, because you know every time you're gonna die, you'll be like, oh, it's the res, man, should go 1280 stretch. It's like, just use it then. Use 1280 stretch, everyone uses it, and then see how you do, right? And if you're playing badly, now you know it's your actual gameplay, right? So that's kind of the thing. Opus video helped and made sense and was enjoyable and informative and all that stuff. This info was worth way too much money. I don't know what's happening. Someone please pray for the market. I want to show you guys my AWP real quick. This AWP. Oh, so pretty. Love this AWP. Check this shit, dude. Fucking, this Galil is worth so much money. It's actually stupid, but it looks so good. Collection skin. I love this Galil, but man, it costs way too much. It's like 25 euro. This for Moss I got scammed on. Look at this shit. Well, I can't show you my... I can show you here. There we go. So, this is the render. Okay, that actually looks scuffed there too. If you look at the Steam rendering, it looks a lot clearer. This is ugly. Like, why is it so scraped up? It's so stupid. Like, why doesn't this look like the render in the like inventory section? Anything else I want to show you guys? Oh, this gun. This gun is so underrated. This is like fucking not even €1, right? And this gun is so pretty when you're using high textures. On low textures it's a bit questionable, but on high textures, man, this gun is so pretty. I love this gun so much. Like, honestly, my favorite P50 in the game right now. Like, this gun looks so good, man. Anything else I want to show you guys? Oh, OG Scout, man. Love this one. Blood. Yeah. CZ still sucks. Crime. Such a crime, man. Love this gun, but unusable in game. Anyway, okay. So, until next one.